And we're back here, Skyhawk Sports Talk. Davis Gregory here with me, Chris Brinkley, another episode here for you, our first one of February. And so glad you could join us if you're here at Zaxby's in Martin, Tennessee, or if you're watching on YouTube. Again, so happy that you all continue to support this podcast and tune in here. Great episode for you all. We've, of course, got men's and women's basketball. Coach Shulman, Coach McMillan will be on with us. But Equestrian getting back and started this week. Coach James will join us later on in the show. Also, first-year UT Martin head coach of the softball program, Chelsea Farmer, will join us. Going to be great talking to Coach, Hall of Famer for the Skyhawks, about to begin her first official year as head coach of UT Martin. And we get into this week in Skyhawk athletics. First up for women's basketball, they've got Lindenwood at home at 5:30 on Thursday. That'll be on ESPN Plus and the Skyhawk Sports Network, as well as their game against Western Illinois at home at 1 p.m. So 2 home games this week for both the men's and women's team. The men's team will take on Lindenwood at 7:30 on Thursday, and then Western Illinois on Saturday at 3:30. Both games on ESPN Plus and the Skyhawk Sports Network. Now on to softball. They will be at the Paladin Invitational in Greenville, South Carolina. Friday, they'll have South Carolina State at 4, and then they'll be at Furman at 6:30. Saturday, Evansville at 11, and then Stonehill at 4 p.m., and then they'll face Stonehill on Sunday, and an early matchup at 7:30 a.m. That's about 30 minutes after my alarm is set. So good luck to them as they try to get locked in and ready to go.
Hopefully they'll set theirs earlier.
Right, to play an early one. Equestrian, they will be at top-ranked Auburn, and they will face on Friday, Minnesota Crookston at 10 a.m., and then they will face the Tigers on Saturday at 11 a.m. That's this week in Skyhawk Athletics, and let's go ahead and get the show started, Chris.
Let's do it. We got a lot to talk about.
We do. We'll go ahead and take our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll have head coach Jeremy Shulman from the UT Martin men's basketball team join us here on Skyhawk Sports Talk.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
We're back here, Skyhawk Sports Talk. Davis Gregory here. Chris Brinkley with me, now joined by head coach of the UT Martin men's basketball team, Jeremy Shulman. Skyhawks back from the road trip, and they've got 2 home games this week. Coach, though, going back into that road trip, facing 2 really tough teams in SEMO and Little Rock, really 2 contenders in this league.
2 very good teams on the road, and both had some motivation, for the game as well. And obviously, we had beaten SEMO at our place. And so they had a little extra motivation. I mean, they had a great crowd there. They had all their athletes out. You could tell it was an important game to them. And then the Little Rock game, obviously, even though they won the game, there was some little extra motivation there, I'm sure, on their part. And so, plus the ESPN game. And so, 2 really good teams. And I thought we got their best shots also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going into a little bit of those things, what did you see from your guys in both those games? Again, that SEMO game, as we get into that one, it got it down to 7 with about 4 minutes to go, and they led by double digits at halftime, but they just kept stretching that out, and they couldn't miss a shot. I mean, plain and simple, they were just on fire.
It's unbelievable. We when I break down the film, we do a lot of different statistical breakdowns on it as well. They scored 35 points on contested jump shots.
Wow.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Like, those are the shots we want teams taking. We don't want to put them at the free throw line. We don't want to give up layups. We don't want to give up open shots. So what does that leave? You want to give up contested mid-range shots or really tough threes. And they scored 35 points on that. And so, sometimes it's just not your night. And that was, as much as anything, they played great. They made shots. It just wasn't our night on that one.
I knew that they hit a lot of contested shots. I had no idea it was that many when you just watch a game. When you go back and do your analytics, what are the things that you look for? That's one thing, obviously.
Look at a lot of things. The first thing I look for, I'm a big plus-minus guy, which also ties into offensive efficiency rating when you're on the floor, defensive efficiency rating when you're on the floor. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what basketball is how do you impact winning? Mm-hmm. And so with plus-minus, obviously, it's a winning indicator.
Now, what we see on a box score is per player, but are you looking at combinations too?
Looking at combinations
and beyond
also.
The 5, just if 2 or 3, how far? I mean, you could go forever with that.
I go into rabbit holes down this stuff.
Okay.
I do. So we use a lot of sites and a lot of different deals, but I do a lot on cbbanalytics.com, and it's unbelievable the deep dive analytics you can go on there. And so I can go on-off rates on every single player and what we're scoring when they're on the court, when they're scoring off, whether they're scoring on with a certain player, without a certain player.
So you're seeing it all.
I can get everything. I can see when Afon Trink is on the court, when he's on with Phillip, his on and off rate. When he's on with Josue, his on off rate. And it just it's unbelievable. You can
How often are you surprised? Does something stand out that you would have never seen in a real
Yeah, and that's I'll be honest, that's where, and we talked about it a lot as a staff because I did another deep dive, especially after the tough road trip. I thought it was a perfect morning to do a really, really deep dive back into it. And there's such a balance between, especially because the sample size is growing, but it's still not enormous sample size. And obviously with any statistical method, the larger the data, the larger the sample size, the more accurate it's going to be, and the smaller, then the more variance is going to be. And so at the end of the day, this is still a group with a lot of different lineups, a lot of different players, a lot of guys who have been injured in and out of the lineup. So the sample sizes, even the large sample sizes, aren't super large. And so how much can be just a fluky run here, there, a fluky run here, there.
How much do you trust it, or how much is it an outlier?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at some things. And so how much is eye test? How much is the other stuff? Like if someone's plus minus a little bit low, is it because he's just not the guy? Or how much is because he hasn't had the right opportunity? He hasn't had the right teammates around him, the right players in front of him. Like, I don't know what it is. And so that it's hard to sort through all that. But I always trust the eye test first on video. I mean, I think that's what our job as a coach. But having the analytics to just give something else that we didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so I think it's fascinating. But
it's
doesn't
life,
mean
man.
everything.
Sometimes you trust your logic. Sometimes you trust your gut. And you have to know
Yes.
that you go with your head or your heart, and you have to know when.
It's great when they both align.
Yes.
And I will say on this year's team, weirdly enough, there hasn't been enough alignment.
Huh.
And I think it's weird. Like I would say most years that I've coached, not every year, I'd say honestly, I'd almost have to go back to like 2018-19, which was a while ago now, to find even one player where my gut and my visual from breaking down film did not align with the plus minus and the efficiency stuff. And on that year, at least, I was very glad I trusted my gut on that one because we ended up making it to the Elite Eight in the national tournament.
Yeah.
And it was great and won 28 games. But a lot of this year is not necessarily, there's some confusing and conflicting data. And that's to me, that's harder because if I've got a gut and my visuals tell me something, I'm watching some on film, like this is what I'm seeing, but all the data doesn't match,
Right.
It becomes confusing.
Right. Also, and then I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
your first press conference, you kind of mentioned what we're talking about now. When you got the chance to come to UT Martin, it was your head and your heart that were
Yes,
saying go.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it was aligned perfectly.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Other than the weather, which is you're good with.
So I love the weather. This is
Okay.
honestly, I mean, it's like 70 degrees today, and I'm actually disappointed. I am so excited about cold. I can't believe it's not going to snow again
It
this
will
year.
change tomorrow, I promise.
Do you
I
do
would
ice
want-
bath or cold plunges or anything?
I
like
don't,
that?
but I want to snow again. I've been 14 years in Florida, which is not a bad thing. Being on the beach, it's great. But 14 years with 70 every day during the winter, which is great, by the way. But like, it's nice to have something different. So the one snow we had, we're on a road trip.
Yeah,
Right.
I wasn't there with my kids watching the snow
Yeah.
come down, and so I kind of missed over that magical moment. So I wanted to snow again, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Well, Tennessee weather, we're going to
Just
hold
wait a
out.
little
It's going to
bit.
happen. It's going to happen 100%. Josue, big news for him, OVC newcomer of the week, and he goes off for a career high 31 points in that one, 8 rebounds. Also rebounded the ball well in that Little Rock game as we get into that, and then also got into double figures. When you look at the film for him, what stood out?
I mean, I think he's starting to get there, and I know we had talked, on air before, but I had a gut feeling, again, trusting the gut, because his numbers hadn't been matching up with the on-offs and the plus-minus stuff. It had been very, very low. Going into SEMO, said, I just got a gut feeling like he's ready now. The practices, the film, everything has just finally been trending towards him being ready to impact winning. And obviously, thankfully, went with the gut, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's rebounding, he's scoring, he's doing a good job.
Tell me, as a coach, I just know his shot is pretty.
Yeah.
What makes his shot pretty? What is it that's different?
And he's got some stuff he's got to do better. He just does. But he's got unbelievable wrist. We call it wrist. It's just that natural touch. He's got floppy wrist on his follow through, on his finish. He's got great, just neurological senses from his fingertips that connect all the way to the synapses in his brain. He just great touch. Great touch.
Yeah.
He shoots such
And
a soft
quick
shot.
release.
Quick release. It's all wrist. It's not arms. I mean, it's beautiful. Now he's got to get a little more arc. That's something we've been fighting when he was going through that shooting slump. And so, he's got.
Is he always squared up?
No, that's what's beautiful. So he's a jump shooter, and
Right.
there's very few jump shooters now. Most players now, ever since Steph Curry, have become set shooters, and That's a whole nother topic, and I can't get into that right now. But so with jump shooters, the amazing thing is you can shoot on the move better. You don't have to get squared up. You can do so many different things. And it becomes more wrist and touch, which I think is beneficial. Now, the negative is as a jump shooter, and this is why so many trainers have gone away from jump shooting. And for one, you extend more effort doing it, which I don't think is a bad thing, but human nature is to conserve energy and to do the laziest thing you can. But
it may be late in the game. It matters.
It could. Yeah. But if you're a conditioned athlete, like I would say, Ray Allen and Kevin Durant and Kyle Korver and JJ Redick, every great shooter, that's ever played under 6'9".
Yeah.
Actually Durant being 7 foot, but still, most great shooters throughout history were jump shooters. But there has been a trend. The negative is you can get flat with your shot because you are extending that effort. You're getting to the top. So you can sometimes throw it more like a dart rather than lift it. And, so Josue's got to keep getting better at that. But even just making a 3-degree difference in his shot from his slump has led to a lot more success the last 2 games.
Well, it's pretty.
It is. It's beautiful. It is.
No, it's one of the most beautiful jump shots I've ever seen in my life. The first time he shot one, I was like, oh, my goodness, there it is.
It's such a soft shot. It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah. It's been a minute since we've seen a true freshman start as much as Philip Radikovich has, and 5 assists against Little Rock. I mean, I remember we talked about whenever you put him in the starting line the first time, your staff kind of looked at you like, "Are you sure you want to put Philip in there?" But since then, I mean, what is the impact that he's made on the floor?
He's just a winner. So speaking of plus minus and the on-off rates, he's in our top 2 on our whole roster, like by far actually in the top 2 of our plus minus. So he is impacting in conference games. He's impacting winning, and actually even in non-conference. But he's impacting winning as much as anyone on the entire roster outside of one other player. And he's just always in the right spot. He's a connector, is what we call him on offense, because he's not a great scorer yet. He's not a great shooter yet. He's a true freshman. He's got to get better, but he's just a connector. He always makes the right pass. Or he had 5 assists the other game. Just even the ones that don't show up. Just moves the ball. He's a ball mover. He's an energy giver. People like playing with that. And on defense, he's a heck of a defender, and he's always in the right spot defensively.
And getting into that second half against Little Rock, what did they come out
Do we
with?
have to?
Yeah. I mean, we don't technically have to, but I mean, they came out, though, and played some really good basketball in that second half. What did they make? What were some of their adjustments that they made?
They did a couple things. They did a really good job being more physical. And, that's the strength of their team. They're huge, they're old, they're physical, and so they really kind of beat us up a little bit second half. And then kind of tangential with that, they started pressing more second half. And it's not that it just caused turnovers, but they sped us up. And it just became a mentality. It got them more physical. They kind of dictated their pace of the game second half. And then the other thing is just the reality, and some of it was because of their physicality, but we shot 6 of 25 at the rim. Yeah. And, I mean, you can't win a game against a decent team like that. I don't know if you win a game against a non-decent team. And so that's very unfortunate, and we've got to keep going back to the drawing board and get better at that. And there's not a lot of easy answers on how to get better, just finishing at the rim, but you always look at who, when are they getting a shot? Like, do we need to do something? Do certain guys just honestly not need to take that shot at the rim, even though it's such a high percentage shot? Do we need to kick it out? Are there different guys that need to be playing a few more minutes? And then obviously the how, like, can we, we need to play off 2 and shot fake better. Like randomly enough, one of the only at the rim finishes we scored was Carlos Cortillo over a 6'8" guy, because he played with composure. He played off 2 feet. He shot fake, got the guy in the air, and that's something we teach every day at practice. But sometimes with a new group that's not used to our coaching, there's that game slippage, and we get to the game, we're playing so fast, and so we've got to slow down, play with some more composure.
Well, it's a huge difference in the game, though, and even if 20% more of those shots fall, it's a different game.
Totally different.
Because it puts pressure on them.
Yeah. If you just make 50%, which is, I think the national average at shots at the rim is like 55% because shots at the rim. Mm-hmm. If you just make 50%, which is lower than the national average, I mean, you can do the math on that. I mean, we might even have a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just unfortunately sometimes it happens like that. But we got to figure out why and what we can do to change instead of just allowing it to be just happenstance.
Yeah.
And as more film's been produced on you all throughout this season, and then I know you've only faced 2 teams now for the second time, how are you seeing teams defend you differently throughout this year?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a worry. I thought we've done a great job, really just manufacturing offense and defense at the edges. And now that, we've gone through it once, I hate to call it smoke and mirrors, but there's a little bit to that with such a young and new team. The secret's out a little bit, and, it just gets harder, just the reality of it. It gets harder when you can kind of trick teams a little bit here and there, but there's only so much, trickery you can do. And at some point it comes down to, can we make a shot at the rim?
Yeah.
Or, can we, just do just enough that another team misses a contested mid-range shot? Because same thing with Little Rock. Little Rock made a lot of outside contested shots. They didn't score a lot at the rim. They scored a couple on some post-ups and some over-the-top post-ups. But generally, they scored a lot of their points on contested outside shots. Mm-hmm. And that's or from the mid-range. And that's generally what we want. So we've got to figure out how do we gain that advantage.
That's bad. Teams and coaches are constantly doing that. That's why I love NBA playoffs, is because they play each other possibly 7 times in a row.
I can't imagine.
Every player knows, every coach knows this is what's going to happen, and then you've got to figure out how to counteract that or to capitalize on what your abilities are. It's a little different in college basketball, obviously.
It is, and to your point, even in NBA, and this is what gets hard with this. It's not like March Madness.
Right.
Generally, the better team wins in NBA because of, there's no secrets anymore. You can steal 1 or 2, but like last year, the Boston Celtics were the best team.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Boston Celtics were going to win the title.
Yeah.
It just happened. And so, and it doesn't mean the best team with the regular season record, because some teams play harder in the regular season, but usually the cream rises to the crop, rises to the top on that one. So how do we, with a younger team, with a team that's not shooting the ball from 2-point range or even 3-point range or free throw line quite as well as a lot of the other teams in OVC, how do we just continue to find a little bit of advantage at the margins? How do we find a little edge? How do we keep like any advantage we can get where it doesn't just become down to just makes and misses and all that? And so, we're at the drawing. We're working.
No doubt.
The players are working. Our staff's working. We're going to find every advantage we can find to help us get some wins.
Yeah, what's the fine line then between sticking to what's made you a good team and what's made you a tough team, and then having to adjust later on in the season?
Well, the fine line was losing by 18 to Little Rock.
There you go.
But it's funny you talk about it because there was some uncertainty, and there's still uncertainty, but it's hard to adjust as much when we are literally in the first round of conference, literally 7 points from being 10-0 in the league.
Yeah.
7 points.
Yeah.
5, 4 games that were, 3 games that were, 1-point losses where you just get a couple more, and then 2 that were overtime where you just need 1 more point. 7 points is all we needed to be undefeated. And so it's hard to make a whole lot of drastic adjustments, outside of if someone's out for a game, like, Fawn Trinker went out for a couple games and with fractured finger, and Matthias Zuchers was out for a game. So outside of that type of stuff, it's hard to make major adjustments. Well, I hate to say it, all those tight losses kind of hurt us, and I could see, and so our psyche of our team's been hurt and it's been dented, and we got to get that back. It's not easy, and so after the last 2, though I do think they're potentially 2 best teams in OVC.
Yeah. And you were at their places.
At their places with their motivation. So you don't want to, again, maybe we're overreacting, but at this point I think it warrants some change. So you'll see some change for Thursday.
Okay.
Cool. Lindenwood and Western Illinois coming up this week. Both home games. Invite everyone to come out. Also, Greek Week. I think that's the Saturday game. So going to have a packed gym.
Absolutely.
Hopefully all of our sororities, fraternities come out for that one. It's going to be a fun time. And so getting into now this week, what's going to be the main focus for this group, getting ready for 2 home games against one team you just fell to on a last-second shot and another one who you got the win at their place in overtime?
We've got to get our connectedness back. That's one of our 4 keys to winning an OVC championship this year. It was OVC regular season or tournament championship. We've got to be the most connected team in the conference. And, all those heartbreaking losses chipped away at it. And then a heartbreaking loss turns into an 11-point loss to SEMO. Chips away a lot at it. And then, it cracked, by the second half of Little Rock. It just did. And I give these guys so much credit, the fact that we went through so much heartbreak all year and never cracked. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, chips, and it finally cracked. And so we're spending this week, we've got to connect again. We've got to be on the same page. We've got to, because you see it in our defense. The defense has continually gotten worse as we've gone on. Partly teams are making shots, but partly we've just lost some of that connectiveness, where we're always in the right spots, like the first 4 games of conference.
Yeah.
So.
2 home games coming up again this week. Invite you all to come out. Coach, thanks so much for joining us here, and good luck here in this week's competition.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have head coach of the UT Martin women's basketball team on with us, Kevin McMillan, here on Skyhawk Sports Talk.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
And we're back here on the Skyhawk Sports Talk podcast. Chris made the point that Coach can bring his food over here if he wants to, and here we are.
It was hot.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you could finish. What are those? Those look good.
Yeah, they got
Those are cheese bites.
Cheese bites.
Oh, he got
Those look
his cheese bite.
I'll let you, while you're eating, I'll tell a story that Coach and Zaxby's go way back, because years ago, Coach said, have you had their chips? This would be a sore subject for you because they don't make them anymore, but they used to have homemade chips. Did you ever have them?
I never had them.
Oh, they were his favorite, one of his favorite food items in Martin. So I thought, well, if Coach likes them, I've got to like them. So I got the homemade chips, and they were really
They
good.
were so good.
And then they discontinued them, so we won't, since they're our great sponsor, we won't say anything about that. But they were fantastic and amazing.
I don't know why. I guess it's hard to make. I don't know.
Yeah, man, he eats really fast. You want to talk to Davis?
We can. It was a great week for you two, Mark.
You don't have any napkins?
No, I left my napkins over there.
Oh, can we get some napkins
Can we get
for
a
Coach?
napkin? Matt, can you get a napkin?
We got to get some napkins
Get Coach
for Coach.
some napkins.
Yeah, get
Coach
some
Shulman, can you have me one of my napkins?
We need a napkin.
Thank you.
This is a. What is?
I'm trying to eat fast. You said I could eat, and I don't want to be
There's a
rude.
little bit of food on your face.
So what did y'all think of our week?
I was about
There
to
you go,
say.
you got it.
Do you have any questions for us to start?
Yeah, tell me about our week.
I think it was a great week. I think it was a really good week.
What did you see was different?
I saw that Morgan played extremely tough on Thursday. I thought she had an impressive game there on Thursday. Didn't shoot the ball great, but overcame that and got 2 wins. And it was a Little Rock game where had the lead by 9, by 8.
Yeah.
And then they started to close the gap, hit some shots, and then that fourth quarter, being able to hit free throws at the line and also get some stops defensively. And also you had your point guard get a double-double with 10 rebounds, so I thought that was pretty good too.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird because we didn't shoot well either game.
Right.
I mean, not only did we not shoot well, we shot poorly.
And if you can win games where you don't shoot well, you're doing some things right that aren't on the surface.
Yeah. So, but that's more confusing.
Yeah. No. It's
because we've had games where we shot the ball pretty good, and we lost. I don't know. I would love for y'all to tell me.
Just cracking.
And then also Nora was out too for the whole week.
So your best shooter percentage-wise is out. You don't shoot well, but you win 2.
Yeah.
That logically doesn't make sense.
No, I agree.
So I don't know.
At SEMO, you hit free throws and
Yes.
you forced turnovers, which was good.
Yeah.
And then Little Rock, I just felt like you gutted it out.
Yeah.
I just felt like you found a way to win. Which, again, I felt like the team last year at times wasn't as good as the team is this year, but you found ways to win, even when you probably shouldn't win, which is what I saw against SEMO and Little Rock. So, I don't know.
It still is so confusing.
Yeah.
Maybe our defense was better.
Yeah, definitely.
Our rebounding was better. If they take rebounding like they did against Little Rock and kind of run with it, that's something that we can try to build on.
Yeah.
But it's late to be building at this point. You need to be kind of perfecting at this point. But we're still building, and I thought there was some. Probably you said it. The Little Rock game, we just kind of gutted out. That's always going to be tough. And we made stops when we had to, and we executed and got buckets when we had to. Now, there was a little stretch in the second quarter where we were good, like we were real good.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why you don't gravitate to that. Like as a player, you don't figure out what did I just do well, why, and then I want to do that again. You know, if you're studying for a test and you come up with a formula to study for the test, I'm going to study this much 2 hours in a group. I'm going to study this much on my own before I go to the group so I can know what I'm doing. Then afterwards, I'm going to do this much of this, and then I'm going to do. And once you figure that out and you do well on a test, just go do that formula again.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then you just had you just had an anomaly, an easy test, or you just got lucky or whatever. But if it works again, okay, I've got a system and I need to stick with that system. And then if you don't do well on a test, you don't question the system because you've determined that's the system. You should stay with it.
Yeah, no doubt. Other than maybe, for me, sometimes I do things in life successfully and you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame, that you don't even realize that during this 4-minute stretch we were really good because you're worried about the next part or the whole thing. You can't see your fingers when your hand is here. You have to separate yourself from a little bit. So, but you shouldn't have to be reminded if you're a great, tough competitor and athlete. You should bring it all in. But sometimes you just don't realize things because you're in the middle of the game and you're just like, okay, we just got to continue to do this somehow.
Well, the thing I do a lot with the players is I'll say, okay, do you see what Kinley's issues are that she's got to work on? Basketball, life, relationships, personalities, whatever. And they are 20/20 as you go around the room. Like they see everything because
and everybody else.
Yeah. When they get to them, can't see it.
Yeah.
It's like so you were saying the same thing. It's like they don't want to or they can't or they've never had to or they never tried to or something, and they can't see in them the things that they need to work on to figure out. And that's kind of like our team. We can't see the things that we need to do to just be consistent. Like if we were the first year that we were here, we were consistently very bad.
But you were consistent.
But we were consistent. And so we actually used that to our advantage. I mean, we eventually figured out, okay, we're consistently bad. Here's why we're bad. So let's don't do those things and let's try to do these things. And quietly, they figured it out. And, maybe this bunch turned a corner. I mean, we all want to hope so. We all want to say they have, and they may have. I don't know. I really am at a loss to be able to even guess where their mind is collectively, not individually, but your team takes on a collective mind, and where our collective mind is, I've told you we're like a schizophrenic. We go from here to there to there to there. But any 2 good road wins back to back. But this week you got Lindenwood and Western coming in who just beat Eastern, both of them, and Lindenwood beat Little Rock at Little Rock.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you're seeing that. I don't know how many losses everybody's got in the conference. I haven't even looked at the standings this year, to be honest with you. But I think that Eastern and Tech and Lindenwood and those 3 are probably in a log jam, and Little Rock probably dropped this weekend with 2 losses. And then Western probably moved up when they beat Eastern. So it's a chaotic world right now in our league.
No doubt.
So Lindenwood will be really good. I guess it's Thursday. We play Lindenwood Thursday. And they beat us at their place, and we didn't play very good. I think we got down as many as 18 and then cut it back to 4, something crazy. There we go. That's probably our season in that one game. One quarter
good, one quarter not so good.
Yeah. But, we'll see. Shay had to go to the doctor today. Her knees bothered her.
Uh-oh.
Just tendonitis, just worn.
Nora better?
Nora was better back in practice today.
Yeah.
But look, at this point in the year, taking a week out, it was really 9 days. I don't, how long is it going to take her to get back in shape?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. But Lindenwood will be tough on Thursday.
I have a really dumb question to ask you. Please don't make me look bad as I throw this really dumb question at you.
All right.
I noticed this in myself, and I don't know if you do or not. When I'm doing play-by-play, I always know the score every second of the game. When I'm doing color, sometimes I don't. I have to look up and remind myself what the score is. Like, are we up 3, down 5, up 10, or whatever. I heard a coach years ago, and you know the coach. He was a high school coach, and he said 10 up, 10 down, it doesn't matter. You should play the same. Don't pay attention to score, play. As a coach, and I'm not talking about in the last 5 minutes of a game, do you always know what the score is? And should the players also be keenly aware of the score? Not in the last 5 minutes, but midway through the second quarter. How much?
To tell on myself,
Yeah.
most of the time I don't know the exact score, but I'll know I'll be close. I will say that there have been 5 or 6 times in my career that I got totally lost, did not have a clue what the score was, and those were probably the best 5 or 6 games I've ever been involved with.
Yes.
When you just totally get immersed in the game and you don't.
And because you were
even
focused
think
on
about
other things of the basketball game that weren't pertaining to the score.
And the score a lot of times will screw you up.
Yeah.
Because you'll look up there and you'll think we're up 6 and you'll just take a deep breath. And you don't need to take a deep breath. Or you'll look up there and you're down 6 and you'll start pressing to try to get back up there. And you do that whenever coach tells you to. Otherwise you just keep doing your job. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's back to the consistent thing.
Yeah.
But there have been a few games. I wish I could remember a game that I just got lost and didn't realize the score. The most recent one would have been when we played SIUE maybe in the OVC tournament. We were down 24 at the half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we came out in the second half, and I totally got lost. And next thing I know, we were ahead.
Yeah.
And I was like, what just happened?
Okay.
So that would have been one of the games that I do remember that one.
Do you think if you polled your players midway through the second quarter, just turn the scoreboard off and said, "What's the score?"
Have you watched us try to execute it at the end of a quarter?
I think there's certain players who really would probably know. But I mean, like you, they might not be able to give the exact score, but they'll know we're up 3, we're up a couple possessions.
You'll have to ask them.
Yeah, I'm real curious. Yeah,
Just during that media timeout.
yeah.
What's the score? What's the score?
And I wonder how much the officials know the score. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Okay, we're not.
No.
They're not supposed to pay any attention to it.
Right.
But you almost have to.
Yeah.
If a team's down 4 with 25 seconds to go, you need to know they're down 4 because they're going to try to foul.
And I say all this because, look, when you say that our team went through a stretch where they played really well, why don't they know to do that all the time? Because they're not focused on what they did in that 4-minute stretch. They're focused on the next 4-minute stretch. And maybe they don't realize, oh, wow, we just dominated that 4 minutes. So they just may know that things went well for 4 minutes, but they don't know. They can't stop and analyze it because they're in the middle of the battle.
Yeah, but you need to sense it.
I agree with that.
And you need to, and that's part of being well coached, and we're not well coached.
Okay.
If you're a well coached team and you're behind, when you take the lead and you're well coached, you will play really solid once you get the lead to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a really well coached team and you're up 8, you're going to push it to 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a really well coached team, you're up 15, you push it to 20.
Yeah.
It's just how to handle it. And we don't handle those situations very well. We literally, it's kind of like we play the next possession. I mean, and it's a good thing. We just forgot the last possession. Well, okay, that's good. Everybody's always saying this today. next play. Well, the reason that's become a big deal is because kids will carry the last play with them. And that you shouldn't do it, but you also should. If we just did something well, you don't want to forget about it
Right.
and move on to something else.
Right.
And if you did something poorly, you don't want to forget about it and move on to something else. You want to take the information and file it away and move on to the next play. But there's not a good catchphrase for that the whole world's going to want to hear.
Yeah, but you particularly want to do it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's like when I go play golf with guys and they miss putts right every single time. I'm like, just aim left.
Yeah, just hit it to the left.
Why is it not occurring to you? Basketball's a little different than that, but sometimes I don't think people have the ability to gravitate towards what's right.
Well, if you take golf for an example, if you think about it, so in a golf match, we're going to call it how many hours? 4 or 5?
4. For
4
me,
hours.
Yeah, you and I
Okay.
can play in 3.
Guy's going to hit it a bunch in 3. If you play for 4 hours, how long does it take for you to swing a golf club? A second?
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Okay.
1 to 2.
So you're looking at a minute in the entire round where you actually swung the club,
Yeah.
right?
Well, if you're not counting putts, yeah, that's 60 swings.
Even when you swing the putter, it's just putt.
well,
I'm not
that's
talking
80
about-
swings times. Yeah, so that's 120. You're
So
right.
you're
Yeah.
at so in 3 hours, 58 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah,
You're in your head
yeah,
for 3 hours and 58 minutes and 40 seconds. You're in your head.
yeah.
So you better be coaching yourself in your head the way that is going to help you. And if you're going to beat yourself up, that's fine. Beat yourself up. But is that going to help you
No.
when you walk up to and try to hit the next shot?
Yeah.
So I used to take a white sheet of paper when I was working with kids and shooting a long time ago. And after they would miss a shot, I would tell them to close their eyes. They would open their eyes, and the white sheet of paper, I'd have it right in their nose. And so when they saw it, they just saw a blank white sheet of paper. And I said, that's your thought after you miss a shot. And you move on to the next one. And I think that's kind of what our team needs to do.
Yeah.
But you do want to take information and use it.
Yeah.
We rebounded well. Okay, why? Let's just don't go into the next game and just go, okay, let's go rebound well and stand around and see what happens because we want to. I'll be anxious to see if we have taken that and run with it.
And one of the reasons Deja was able to get more rebounds is she didn't stay in foul trouble, which she has been in foul trouble in some other
Well,
games.
she got in a little foul trouble.
Yeah,
and I
that's
just left
true.
her out there.
Well, everybody was in foul trouble, actually.
yeah, that's
weren't
true.
they?
That
The
is
whole team
true,
was in
but-
foul trouble.
Yeah, it just kind of goes when you're a team, and I know going in that you've got a tough job tonight. You've got to box out their leading rebounder who's averaging 8 offensive rebounds a game. Okay, I'm going to be aware that I need to go rebound to help you out because I know you're down there battling. Now, if you're getting whipped every time, I'm going to probably say something to you. Do you want me to go guard her so you can go rebound? Because I'll go keep her off the boards. But that's the team connected stuff where you just try to take care of your teammates that are, having tough jobs. A point guard that's being dogged by somebody, a wing player that like Kinley's getting face guarded around. You go, okay, well, I'm going to set her a better screen than usual. I'm gonna take advantage of this and get some easy buckets so that they'll loosen up off of her. And that's a connected thing that you.
Well,
hope
there was
you
a
can
play
do
in the
with your
Little Rock
team.
game. I think it was Morgan. Morgan turned the ball over, and we're like, yeah, that's her turnover. But nobody came to help her out either. I don't know. Am I wrong about that?
No,
play?
no, I do remember.
You remember that play? Do you remember that at all?
It wasn't the one where she was 3 feet from the basket, didn't shoot.
I don't
No,
think
not
so.
that.
I think
She was like
near the
left
free throw
elbow.
line.
She was
Yeah.
left elbow, and everyone kind of stood still for like 2 seconds.
That's
That
then
was lack of connect.
she needs to own her part of why did we get where we were.
Yes.
And then everybody else needs to own their part of, okay,
Yeah.
you didn't bail her out. And the thing about it is you're going to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make lots of mistakes. The thing about it is which team can handle that the best. It's not necessarily which team makes the least amount of mistakes. Could be. But more often than not, it's simply which team handles their mistakes the best. And I'm not saying that you throw the ball into the bleachers and we all high-five each other and do that. I'm saying we throw it in the bleachers and then we turn around and we have a real good defensive possession.
Yeah.
You know, whether they score or not, we made it really hard on them. That's the kind of stuff that I think you're looking for when you think you're very connected.
All that stuff we've talked about, I thought you did better in the Little Rock game.
I would agree. I think that was probably the most connected that we've been on both ends of the floor this year, probably for the longest amount of time.
And you were tough.
We were pretty tough.
In the fourth quarter, you were tough because you were in the same situation earlier this year at home, and you weren't as tough in the fourth quarter.
I would say yes to that stuff. I'm just scared when I don't see it every day. I'm scared that we just got lucky.
Yeah.
And we could have, or they could have grown up. I don't really have the answer to that one.
A big accomplishment over the weekend, though, for Anea in the 1,000-point club, and did that against SEMO on Thursday. 18th member of that club, and now just one of 3 players in program history, with Chelsea Perry and then Mary Kate Long to have 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, and 100 blocks in their career. What can you say about that accomplishment for Anea? Because that's pretty.
Well, I mean,
huge.
you said it. If you put Mary Kate Long and Chelsea Perry in a conversation, and you add your name to that group, that's pretty elite. That's not a normal conversation that you're going to have. And she's done it in 3 years or less than 3 years. She's a tough matchup to deal with, just like Chelsea was. I didn't see Mary Kate play, but I can tell from her stats that she was hard to deal with. And so it's huge for her to be in that conversation. And it's nice to see kids get recognized when they do achieve milestones.
Mm-hmm. When you recruited her, did you think she'd join the 1,000-point club whenever you got her on?
I don't know. I never thought about it. I would say that most kids that are here for 4 years probably get close.
They get a good shot at it.
Yeah, I was going to look up the 18. There's 18.
18.
How many you coached? And I haven't looked at that. We don't have to try to come up with it.
Well, Butler and Newsom are there, and Chelsea's there.
Yeah, and I'm sure Katie did it.
Katie, I think Katie was like 998.
No way.
She might have broken it at Memphis.
Okay.
That's a question for the boss over there. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how many others there are. I know Asia might have done it in 2 years.
Yeah. Did Amani maybe have 1,000 just because
she
of
was close?
longevity?
If she didn't, she was really close.
Yeah.
It's longevity gives you a chance, but you have to be solid, or you have to be really good a couple of years.
Yeah.
But there have been a few.
And from the men's side, that's what's amazing about Lester Hudson's numbers. Is he was here for 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's top 10 in every category. And he did it in 2 years.
Lester was crazy.
Yeah.
Lindenwood and Western Illinois up this week. Coach alluded to earlier, they are the only 2 teams to beat Eastern Illinois in conference this year. How do you look to build on the momentum established in this last week and coming into 2 games against 2 teams that are riding pretty high?
How do I look to build on it, or how does the team look to build on it? There's 2 different questions there. If I'm looking to build on it, then I'm coming out with a little fire in me and a little, we've got some more to prove here. Now we're starting to get going, and we're going to take that thing and run with it. What are we going to do? Couldn't tell you. I really don't know. I don't know if they're going to think that we've started playing better, so everybody's going to roll over. I don't know if they think that, okay, we're going to do it, and we know it's going to be tough, so we've got to – I just don't know. But whatever it is, I hope that we've turned a corner here, and if we have, we're a hard team to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a hard team to deal with. It's just can we build on something? I think that's I told you we want the team to own something, so we can start building off of that. There were 2 games. If that's something that we're going to build off of, that was 2 good games to build off of. Road games, tough, hard fought fourth quarter. That would, for me, it would be an injection of adrenaline, and let's take off. But we'll see. I hope so.
Yeah, again, Western Illinois, Lindenwood up this week. Make sure to come out to the Kathleen and Tom Elam Center for that, Coach. As always,
one more
yes,
question. So this is a follow-up from our post-game interview at Little Rock. I asked you about how you did on the ACT and whatever the other one is, the SAT and the ACT, and you said, let me tell you about my graduate test. So I guess that was the GMAT. What was that?
It was the MAT.
The MAT.
The Miller's Analogies Test.
Okay. And you said, ask you
And
about it on the
my
podcast.
buddy wanted to go take it, and I didn't want to take it. And he wanted, so I went and took it with him. And
Were you in Memphis? Where were you?
we were in Memphis.
Okay.
And I didn't know anything. I didn't know scores. I didn't know anything. I just took the test.
You didn't prepare?
Nope. Just walked in and took the test, which was probably really good. So fast forward 3 weeks, and the tests come in, and I saw that they came in, and I looked at mine, and I was like, threw it away. Or threw it in the trash. And my buddy got in there, and he was so excited. He'd made it into the master's program at Memphis State at the time, and you had to make a 32, and he had made like a 39. And I still didn't know scores. He asked me what I made, and I said, he didn't tell me 39. He didn't say anything. He just said, I got it in there and got it. He said, where's yours? I said, I'm not telling you. I threw it away. He went there and dug it out of the trash, and he opened it up, and he said, are you kidding? I said, I told you don't look at that. And he said, you are an idiot. He said, you only had to make a 32 to pass, and you've over doubled it. And I just went,
wow.
My mouth dropped open.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But it was all because I didn't care. I just,
no pressure.
no pressure. You just walk in, you take the test, you don't worry about it. But analogy, it's math.
Yeah, no, that's
all
your
it is.
wheelhouse.
And it's in my wheelhouse.
What if you took that test today? Are you still sharp? Or I asked you
I don't know.
I asked him a really, really difficult math question a couple weeks ago. And I'd ask a lot of people this question, and nobody had answered it correctly, and he answered it in about 15 seconds. He's the only person I know who answered the question correctly, and it's a very, very difficult question. So I think you're still sharp because
probably a math mind that I work with.
Your brain works that
probably,
way anyway, and then you've honed those skills through the year.
Yeah, and probably coaching, you're running numbers in your head, and I'm trying to build a house, you're running numbers in your head, so that's probably pretty active. Don't ask me what kind of shape I'm in, but my math numbers are good.
People may not know this, but there's a little bit of nerd in there, possibly.
Oh, I guarantee you there is. I guarantee you there is.
And
a lot
that's a
of
compliment. That's a compliment.
Oh, goodness. Well, Coach, thanks so much for sharing lunch with us. This was a good time.
I appreciate y'all letting me eat it while it was hot.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a great time. Well, Coach, good luck this week, and we'll see you here throughout the week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
Back here on Skyhawk Sports Talk, Davis Gregory here with Chris Brinkley. Now joining us, first-year head coach for the UT Martin softball team and Hall of Famer for the Skyhawks, Chelsea Farmer here as UT Martin set to begin their first season under your command. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course.
Before we get to anything, happy anniversary.
Thanks.
Happy anniversary.
No better place to spend it than Zaxby's for lunch.
How many years?
7.
7
It's
years.
today?
It's today.
Wow.
Literally today.
How
Yep,
about
thanks.
that? Take us back those years ago.
Yes.
Lord, I'm not sure you want us to do that.
Yeah,
So.
it was a Saturday.
It
No.
was a Saturday. It was a cold Saturday, and fun fact is we chose February 3rd. It was either going to be the last weekend in January or the first weekend in February because everybody else was going to play softball the rest of spring. So we had to, Coach Canary came. We had to get all the softball people there. So
Before the season
yep,
started.
yeah.
Oh, goodness. Daniel loves Zaxby's.
Yes.
That's the other thing. So
Loves
this is
it.
perfect for him.
Great.
This
Yep.
is perfect this is so fitting. What a better way to celebrate
That's
the 7th
right.
anniversary like this.
And he loves going out to eat. So we'll go out to eat for lunch and then again for dinner. So it's a good day.
Perfect. It's
Yep.
awesome. It's awesome. So UT Martin began their season this Friday at the 2025 Paladin Invitational. And so getting set for this year, let's go back to being hired during the off season. What was that process like?
It was a long process. I think, of course, I was very excited to get it. It was a great day. Just since how everything happened last year, I had a lot of things in my head of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And I was just kind of waiting for the word. And so we just hit the ground running probably that day. I mean, even maybe before that, but I was just on go the entire summer, and I felt like I've been on go and probably will stay there until the end of season.
Until the OVC tournament comes to a
Yep.
close. Exactly. So why did you want to stay here at UT Martin and continue to be a part of this program?
So this program is just a very unique one that can give players and just student athletes a very good experience. The community, of course, makes up a lot of that. And I really have just a passion for sharing what this town has to offer. So I tell the girls all the time, the team is my first priority, but the program's just a little bit above that. And so I want to look out for the team and the players. That is always my daily, like I wake up, how do I take care of them? But then the program is just a notch above that because the program's going to outlast all of them when they're gone, and the program's still going to be here. Even when I'm gone, the program's still going to be here, and I want to do my justice to take care of it while I have it. And then 20 years from now, if somebody else has it, I still want it to be taken care of.
Right.
Could
Still
you
available.
imagine the very first time you walked foot on this campus? That here we'd be.
No, definitely
No.
not. I don't
Yeah.
think I could have ever predicted that, and that's part of the beauty of it. I think is the good Lord works in a lot of different ways, and I'm just thrilled to be here in this situation, and I don't take that privilege lightly. So.
Yeah.
Did you want to coach after you got out of playing?
Yes, I didn't want to coach early on, but then as I started working camps and things like that, I realized, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be at. And then when I started coaching high school, I just, the love I had for the game and the passion, it just always seemed a little bit more than what the high school level was. But I didn't know that I would end up here, but I'm glad I did. So
But I don't know if we've had this conversation. You were a communications major?
for a little while, I changed my major 3 times.
Well, I think you actually came to the radio station your freshman year,
Yep.
and maybe in Dr. Robinson's class,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
And I just remember how kind you were and energetic, and it's just so cool that you're here now. Because
Well, I
you
appreciate
came in.
that.
Because what's it called? It was an
Was it practicum?
no, it was it's a word. It's a derivative of intern. Extern? No,
an externship, maybe.
An externship. But you just came and hung out on the morning show. We did the morning show, and you were there.
Yep.
And maybe a couple of comm students were
And
there.
Dr. Robinson, he came to a lot of games, and he still, when he sees me, we're
Yeah.
good buds, and I appreciate it. He's still very supportive of me, which is crazy to me. I'm like, how do you even remember me of all those students? But it's just
because
that's the town.
Again, you smiled, you had high energy, and you were a
Maybe
good
so.
student. And
Yeah.
you changed majors 3 times.
Yeah, I don't like to publicize that a lot, but it happens. It
No.
happens.
Right, it does. It does.
We can't all be like Davis. It took me 10 years to get my degree.
Right.
It took me 10
Hey,
years.
I barely
But you
squeaked.
got it.
I
That's
did
what
get
matters.
it.
I squeaked out, so I'm just glad that I just got out and with my degree, whatever. I walked across the stage. It was as surprised as everybody when I walked across. Like, oh, okay, wow, good for me. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's right.
Yeah. So going back to this last season, when you were the acting head coach, what'd you learn that year that's going to help here in this 2025 year?
Honestly, just lineup manipulation, a lot about the rules that I really just didn't have to pay attention to a whole lot as an assistant coach. So that would probably be my main takeaway from last year. I'm way more comfortable with that. I feel like I'm, ahead of the game now instead of fighting
The
from
rules
behind.
are not easy.
They're not,
No.
and they change every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And so I do feel a lot more confident in that area, which I know that sounds silly, but when you have to make them on the fly and you got 5 seconds to make a change, you want to be up on the rules. And I've seen knowing the rules help you win ball games, and I've seen not knowing the rules help you lose ball games. So we want to win ball games, so we need to know the rules.
Yep.
A lot of seniors from last season, they graduated, and Casey Fuller, probably the headliner of that group, and certainly miss her presence on the field. But a very young group steps in here, and I know that Allie Robinson, a great player too, a graduate for you, kind of on the top of that list in terms of experience. How do you look for them to kind of make their own stamp on this year where they got to learn under so many seniors last year?
So that's kind of been one of our main focuses of the year, is just really prepping that group, the small group of returners that we have, for the leadership role, what that looks like, what that doesn't look like, how they can kind of take that and make it their own. They've seen different ways on how to do it, and okay, now it's your turn. What's going to be your leadership style? How are you going to get this team to success at the end of OVC? So we've been doing a lot of work with that group, for better or for worse. Sometimes they don't like it, but I think in the end it's going to pay off for them and for the team.
Junior infielder Kenny Brown named a player to watch for this year, and junior year for her, correct?
Correct.
How has she grown in the offseason?
Goodness. So, she has just, I think now after starting a bunch last year, whereas her freshman year, she really didn't see the field a whole lot. Now she's like, okay, this is what it's going to take. This is how hard I actually have to work to be good, because, her numbers were okay last year, and she really came in clutch in a lot of different ways, which was so exciting. But it was just like, you could see like, hey, you could be really great. And so I think she saw that as well. And okay, this fall we're going to work really hard. And so I'm really excited to see how she comes and attacks the game this year.
Yeah.
And jumping into now this weekend, again, a ton of teams, softball season starting right up here in college athletics. How have preparations and everything gone for this upcoming year?
They've been interesting this January with the snow and the rain and the cold.
And
You
now
know
it's
what I
70
say
degrees
about
outside.
Softball, you could be a meteorologist, right?
You ain't
I mean,
kidding.
like, how often do you study the weather?
too often, and most days I'm like, why didn't I play an indoor sport? Like, why? Because I don't like schedule changes. It drives me, especially when you have kids and just so many things, it's crazy. I like a schedule. I like to follow an order and all of that. So it's gone well. We've had to really piece some things together each day to make sure we're getting our offense in, to make sure we're getting pitching in. I mean, we've had to go different locations, but we've gotten it in. It's been a little unorthodox this season, but maybe hopefully now we're coming out of it, because today and tomorrow are going to be be great days to be out in
Mother
the field.
Nature don't care.
This is the perfect time to get out there and get
She
the
does
work.
not, yeah.
It is the perfect time.
It is.
And getting into now non-conference, and you know how the OVC works and how competitive that it is. In non-conference, what does it take to take your lessons that you learned there and then transfer it into the conference season?
So that's a lot of conversations. We really have to be intentional with the games that we play. And we go through these games. Obviously, we're trying to win. But after the games, like, what conversations are we having? Or even during the games of like, hey, this happened, but here's what you need to do. So you really have to spend some time reflecting on what you're doing to learn and to gain that experience. You just can't play games and then go to the hotel and sit. Like, you've got to be watching the film. You've got to be having those conversations of, here's what happened, but we're going to have to change this to win those OVC ball games. So, for better or for worse, whether we win or lose this preseason, we're doing everything that we can to prepare for. We got SEMO first weekend out for OVC, so one of the tougher teams there.
And we just got done talking with Coach McMillan about the why. Like, I just did that well. Why? Or I just did the bad there. Why did I do that? Where do you find, okay, I need to look at that now, but also the overthinking of it, because then that can come into play.
You're right, and that's especially pitching wise. We talk a lot about, I think the main thing there is just to give them the good and the bad. So obviously, this is Division I. You've got to get used to seeing your stats, knowing when they're bad, when they're good, and that type of thing. It's just part of it. The more they can become comfortable with that, the better. And so we've tried to do that all off season. Is like, hey, here's the stats from the day. Hey, here's the stats. That way, it's something they can utilize, but not something they overthink and freak out about.
What was your approach as a player, and what do you wish your approach would have been?
Great question, because my approach as a player was I'll do what you tell me. You know what I'm saying? Which technology probably wasn't as good back then. So filming-wise, we didn't have near the technology that we have now. So back then, I was taking whatever my pitching coach said, and I was just going to do. That was probably the one good thing about me, was like, I was just going to, whatever my coach said do, I'm a rule follower, I was just going to do it.
And this is travel ball, high school, college?
Yeah. You tell me, I'm an only child, so I'm a rule follower at heart.
Yeah.
And so I just, feedback-wise, whenever people would give me that feedback, I just, okay, that's what I'll do. We'll try that and move on. But now it is a lot more technical, and we do have the film, so that way, kids these days are different in a better way. I think they want to know the why. They want to have that explanation. And honestly, now I want to give that explanation, and I wish I would have had that back then, because I'm like, man, I could have probably been real good back then if I would have had that. But that's part of this job that I enjoy. I enjoy the film breakdown. I enjoy sitting there showing them, like, hey, here's what your foot is doing. We need to make this change, or whatever it is.
Because when you played, you just couldn't go watch it on ESPN+.
Right. No. Oh, my parents are very upset.
Yeah.
They're like, why wasn't this there when you were playing?
Yeah.
They just, obviously they always listen to it on the broadcast, but they are wishing that the ESPN Plus would have been invented a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
The OVC Digital Network didn't have on demand? Is that what it was? Or did they not do softball?
It was primitive at the time, I get. We didn't do a lot of softball. No, because we didn't have the technology
There was
on
no,
the field.
yeah.
Like, even from a technological standpoint, I mean, we're kind of behind the eight ball in having wiring and everything running there.
Yeah, and that's what
our press box is small. I mean, there's a lot of things. Yeah.
This is.
And I'm old. You're
I
think you're making me feel better, because you're like, wait.
Well,
we did have electricity,
but not smartphones. I didn't have a smartphone in college.
You didn't have a smartphone? How
Sure
old are
not.
you?
Right.
No, did you really not have a smartphone? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
The BlackBerry?
No. You could do things.
I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, well, no, it was like I could text and.
Did you have to hit the number? Like, if you want to hit number one, it was A, B, C?
Yes. Blackberries were a thing. I didn't have one. I had like a lower grade, but my roommate had a Blackberry that was real cool. And
yeah, that's all kind of.
Yeah.
You know what a Blackberry looks like?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I made a phone call on a BlackBerry.
You had one? And how and when?
Well, my stepdad had one, and so like
they were nice.
They were, but those
was an entire keyboard, right?
Well, yeah, it was right there, just right on the phone.
Yeah.
You could just keyboard it up, you know. But like, when I had my flip phone, my parents would get mad at me because it just took so long for me to text. So I was like, I'll just tell them whenever I see them. And then they're like, why didn't you text me? I'm like, because it takes me 10 minutes
That's really
to
funny.
prepare this text, and I got ADHD, and so then it just goes away. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just see you when I see you. And we'll
What are your
figure it
rules
out.
on the phones
Funny.
with your players on the bus, on road trips and games?
So that's really interesting because back in the day we had to turn our phone in a phone sock, and it was like a whole thing. You know,
like at a comedy show.
yeah, like a big old white tube sock, and we got to decorate it and turn it in at night, and yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But if we tried to do that now, I think we would get a lot of resentment. So essentially, we have this box that it's like fits all the phones in, and so when we get off the bus to go play, they put their phone in it. So really you can't survive an 8-hour bus trip without your phone. Let's just be honest. I can't either. So I want them to listen to their music before the game. I want them to tell their parents, hey, we're getting off the bus. I think a lot of that is communication, because if my kid was out there, I'd want to know they got there safe and things like that. But they put that on before they get off to go to the game. So during the game, their phone's on the bus. When we get back on the bus, we give them about 10 or 15 minutes where they have to kind of chill before getting that phone back. That way they don't like rage text or like send out any. I mean, really,
No, exactly.
just take a breath for 15 minutes, and then you can have your phones back, and you're a little bit more level-headed.
Davis is a terrible rage texter.
I'm awful. I'm terrible.
Listen, it's a real thing.
It is. You got to give yourself like an hour rule of like, I'm not sending anybody anything right now.
Yes,
because
right.
if
You
I
might
do,
regret it.
If I do, I'm going to be upset.
I am so naive. I've never heard that term, but I love it because it
Rage.
applies to people I know.
No more rage texting
No
over
more
here.
rage.
Nobody rage texting.
I would never do it.
Coin
because
that phrase.
No
I
rage.
prefer to do it in person.
Fair.
If I'm going to get mad at you, it's going to
That's
be right
right.
to your face.
That's
That's what it
That's
is.
probably best, too.
And by the time I get there, I'm not mad anymore. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Exactly. And
Right.
then,
I guess
see,
that's why rage texting is so bad, because it's so instantaneous.
Yeah, and most of the time they probably wouldn't even do it in person anyway. So.
Exactly.
Right.
Listen, if you're not going to say it to my face, then like,
See,
what are you
life
gonna-
skills. We're trying
I
to
just
teach
Exactly.
life
totally
skills.
learned something today.
This is what
Thank
we
you.
do on this podcast every
Life
day.
skills.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Hey, coming into this weekend, last question for you. What's your expectations for your group here as you get ready to go?
It's a big question. I think my main expectation is just to learn something. This crew, myself included, this crew is so new. And, for us, for our coaching staff, it may not be learning something about the game or the other team, but just learning about how our team operates best. I think that's going to be really important for us as a coaching staff, just because it is so new and we don't really know what's going to happen. We have an idea of who's going to play where, but at the end of the day, these next 3 or 4 weeks could go by and that may change. But I think it's on us to make sure we're paying attention and learning and seeing how our team works best. And I'm going to ask the same of the team. I want my players to be paying attention to that too. Like we said earlier, they can see the stats and they see everything. So to me, being honest with them about where they're at and what works best where is usually the best thing to do. So it's on ESPN Plus. You can watch it back. You can watch when you strike out. You can see your mistakes and all that. And so I think just asking them to pay attention and see how our team is going to function best into OVC.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks
Good
for
luck
having
here
me.
in this
Yep.
first season.
Thanks.
We'll go ahead and take a break. Keep it right here on Sports Talk.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
And we're back here again. Final segment here of Skyhawk Sports Talk. Davis Gregory with Chris Brinkley. Now joining us, head coach of the UT Martin Equestrian team. Kim Janes is the Skyhawks starting out in the spring semester schedule with Minnesota Crookston and then number 1 Auburn. And it's going to be a big weekend here for the Skyhawks. Coach, thanks so much for taking time out of a busy week to come join us.
It is. Absolutely. We're excited. It's a big road trip.
Yeah, first matchups here of this spring season. But going back to the break, how was that for you and the athletes to get that in and some time to rest and then recuperate and come back and be ready to go?
Oh, good. Yeah, it's always that mental reset. We have a long season, with it going all year. So it's nice to take a break. The horses had to have a break, so it's really also good because we have to slow down and get them back in shape as well. So it's not like you come back and go running. So you can come back and do some fundamental work and just kind of catch your breath, get organized, and be ready now to go back into the show pen and show
How'd the
hard.
horses do with the snow? Because we had
The horses are good in the snow. It's the ice they don't do so good in. So we did
Yeah.
okay with this one. It's and the waters freeze, and so it's
Yeah.
a lot of extra work to feed them and take care of them, and they wear blankets and all of that. But yeah, So it's extra work for us, but they do fine.
Yeah. Who picks out the are they not colorful blankets though? Are they? Because I drive by there all the time.
There are a lot of them are blue just because we've gotten them, but they're waterproof and they're insulated, and it's like wearing a winter coat basically for horses. So yeah,
I've got a horse behind my house. I think she's in her 30s. She's old, so she needs a blanket.
Yes. And that's like in this over break. It was not that cold, and so we would only put them on some of the olders. The olders need it more, and the ones that are a little skinnier, maybe not carrying as much weight.
That's right. You'll learn someday, Davis, as you get older.
As you get older, you need more layers. You need more layers. He's in his t-shirt wearing
Yeah,
our
I'm in a
sweatshirt.
t-shirt right now. That's what it is. But I have to wear my house shoes now. Whenever I'm in the house now,
House
I can't.
shoes?
You've crossed the line.
I know. I have. I can't. The
Oh
other
my
day, I got
gosh.
upset with how pricey stamps were. I'm really crossing some boundaries
Yes,
right
you-
now. That, you know,
How old are you?
I'm really. I don't know. Honestly, I feel I'm 24,
going on
but
60.
after I saw prices of stamps, and it actually was like, wow, why is
Oh
that so
my
much?
goodness
I might be up there now. I don't know.
actually don't know. What is this?
It's 75 cents.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Forever
it is.
stamps.
Is-
I don't know. I
The
haven't bought-
forever stamps you pay one price, years
Yeah,
ago,
that's-
and they're
I'm telling you right now, when
are
I went
stamps really 75 cents?
75
Do you know?
See?
I haven't purchased it in a long time,
See?
so I don't have any idea.
What are you mailing?
I don't know. It was
I'm
my
sorry,
dentist.
Mac.
It was my dental bill.
Oh, my gosh.
It's 75 cents to mail it for a stamp. It's unbelievable.
That's funny.
It's unbelievable.
That's funny.
Getting set, jump right back into
Yeah.
this season, into the fall portion of the schedule really strong. At
did.
74 head-to-head wins, 17 MOPs. How has practice gone in getting ready for this second half?
Excellent. They are ready. We've done some mindset work. They are hungry. They don't just want to eat. They're hungry. They're ready to go
good.
prove some stuff on the road. And we've done a lot of just of team culture work and that kind of stuff to get on the road and go play number one. You have to be in the mindset to not let that overwhelm you. Their facility is amazing. They have the big jumbotron, and not to get into let any of that get in their head because they're good riders. So
How many times you've been there a lot?
We've been there. We do play them a lot because they are a closer one to us. And we usually can get a neutral meet, so we get to play Crookston on their horses. So who is in our conference, which is really good. But it's good. You gotta. You're not good just because you can beat somebody that's less than you. You're lower than you in the rankings. You got to be able to take on those and mentally, organize.
What do they think about us?
I think they probably don't give us enough credit.
Yeah.
Because
Which is
we've
a
been
good-
really close a lot. Yeah. So I think they just, it's probably practice for them, and that's okay. But yeah, that's not how we see it.
When you go down to Auburn, do you get Toomer's Lemonade? Is that a stop for you all?
I don't know about Toomer's
Oh
Lemonade.
my goodness!
No, I've never heard of this.
So my parents both graduated from Auburn,
Okay.
and so Toomer's Lemonade is in downtown Auburn. It's like right next to the campus, and it's a drugstore. You go in there and they make freshly squeezed lemonade. It's the best lemonade you can get.
Okay.
That's what you all need to request.
Okay.
Is like, hey, bring some Toomer's lemonade.
Let's see if we can
over.
have some of that. Yeah.
Right.
No. Yeah.
We're gonna get the win, and then we're gonna take your lemonade.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
That's
that needs to
exactly
be the
right.
message. That needs to
Absolutely.
be the message this
Yeah.
week.
Yep.
Seeing on Instagram a lot of these posts for the seniors here, because this is their last go around. And what's been your message to them with their college careers winding down, and then life happening on the other side
Oh
whenever
my
they
gosh.
graduate?
Yeah, we do. It's a lot. What's next? We're doing a lot of talking about internships and jobs and what that all looks like. But this has been a really strong group. This group is not a lot of groups walk in and start as freshmen. Some of them didn't start till middle, but they're a force to be reckoned with. So keep their goal right now is to stay engaged in where we're at, and because they're and the legacy they're leaving behind them. So we've been talking a lot about making sure that the underclassmen that are coming in under that are coming up behind them, that they're ready to take the next steps, and they want to leave it better than the team better than when they came in. And so that's been a lot of what we're talking about. Our girls do senior speeches, and those have just started, and they're always really emotional. It's really fun to hear their journey and whatever they wanted to talk to their underclassmen. And oh my gosh, they're good. We look at the lights a lot. We laugh because you don't want to get teared up. Like, we have so much in front of us, and we have such big goals still. But it's definitely fun to see the legacy of this group, and they've been a strong one for sure.
I've heard a lot of coaches talk about the end of a career and then how you just got to appreciate every second.
Yep.
You've taken it a whole different level where you have a responsibility of contribution.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
Absolutely. That's a big piece of it. And that's, it's funny because they start thinking about their senior speech when they're freshmen. What are you going to say to the ones, but what's the legacy you want to leave? And what do you want to tell them about your journey? And it's really fun to watch them process through that. And it helps them too process through it. But it also helps the freshmen and the youngers
Oh, I love
know what
that.
it's going to be like, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, look what I have to look forward to, and
And
then
if
make
your
it
lead
better.
is contribution, you really are appreciating it while you're contributing, but at the
Yes.
same time, you're focused on something much bigger.
much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and talking to them about staying focused in
Oh,
on
my
the day
gosh.
that is right in front of you. I know that's something that I know probably our listeners would want to know. What's your tip to them to say, okay, hey, it's February 3rd, 2025. How are we focusing in on today? What's your tip to them?
Golly, I don't know that there's one thing, but we just had a big team meeting last week and really went through who we are, what our values are. And at the end of the day, that's what we can control and what that mindset looks like on that day, and then how to help each other. And then they each had to write, like, what can they do to help contribute? And we take all 40 girls. We don't always get to do that. So how do we stay focused for the ones that are in the pen, that we're getting organized in what we need to do? So how to kind of check back and focus on what you need in the moment versus what the team needs in the moment. And really it just comes down to the prep work and trusting that you've done the work when you've done it, and get on that horse and figure it out. And then at the end of the day, have fun. Because if you're having fun, it comes across better. If you're putting all this pressure, we talk about pressure as a privilege, but it also has to be fun, because that's where you can relax enough to let that horse do. Horses feel all your tension. They feel everything. They have a connected energy to us. Like, you can feel our heartbeat when we're tight. And so that nerves doesn't get you anything, and that anxiety. So working through all those pieces to make sure that you're in a place of.
Do horses mirror that?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Oh, very much so.
So you're leading emotionally where we're going, and they follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can't get a lot out. If you're on a nervous horse anyway, and you get on them and you're nervous, oh my gosh, it's a wreck.
It's
but
doubled, yeah.
we have a lot of those because our horses are here for a reason. We don't, they do our job a lot, and so there's a lot of repetitive, and they think for you. And the more you can be relaxed and calm and connected, the more you can get out of them. So that's a big piece of what we do, is having to manage the energy of our balls, right? Of our the horse you're on, and you don't know what that's going to look like. So you can only prepare by riding every different horse you can ride, having your team have your back so that you can focus and dial in on those places.
Yeah. And I really feel for animals and horses, and most animals, they don't talk. So that's how they communicate.
Oh, very much so. They communicate a lot. They just don't use their words. They
Yeah,
use their
but
body actions and their tightness. And
Yes, and then that's how they get a feel
Oh,
for
yeah.
where you are.
Yeah, they don't like you. They're going to kick their foot out, or they're going to pin their ears and tell you that you better soften up a little bit. Yeah, because then I think that's probably the hardest group for some of my girls, is now they want it so badly, right? That it's right here in front of you, and you have this precipice of what you want. You know what you want it to look like, and so you want to go. But when you're horse, you can't do that. You have to ask them for it, but you have to be soft enough to ask them to do it for you. Even though you want it this badly, you can't have it with that much tension. It has to be with a soft elegance to.
What's a 30-second? If I walk up to a horse I don't know, in 30 seconds, how am I going to tell that horse I'm relaxed, I'm cool?
Pet it, talk to it softly, not be tight, not yeah. Just make that connection,
Just like you
like a
would
dog.
with a dog
just
or
a
a
dog.
cat.
Yep. You don't
Maybe
need
not
to
a cat.
pet them on the neck, rub them, not pet them. They don't like pet. Rub them, talk to them.
Nothing likes to be.
No, and then softness in your voice, just that, so that can't come out, right?
Yeah.
I want you to do this now, right? It's got to be, hey, we're gonna go do this, buddy. Let's go have a good ride.
Probably not the big radio voice either. Like,
No.
hey, how are you today?
No, not that one. No.
You're scaring the horses,
Yeah.
Chris. You're
They do.
scaring
They
the
get a
horses.
little.
And then Chris and I can't be around the horses, otherwise we'd mess it up. I think that's what.
Oh,
it
I
is.
can-
No,
I
you
can-
cannot. You can
We
soften
can
it
do
up.
that. I can
All right.
turn down the radio.
Oh,
voice.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So start of this season, talked about the seniors, 12 newcomers, and they're all freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about it at the beginning of the year. What's been their growth been like to
my
watch throughout
gosh.
this season?
Oh, it's crazy. Because I guess the other thing that's really difficult for people coming into our sport is they're used to doing for themselves on their own horse. So they ride the same horse every day. They ride, but they're only going in to support them, for their individually. So learning how to be a part of a team, learning how to maybe what you need that day is not what the greater good of the team needs, but also riding a different horse every day. And then riding a different horse that somebody else rode yesterday, and they may have a little different feel in their hand or a little different style the way they go to a lead change or something. And then being adjustable to what the horse needs, what the horse is on that day, versus riding the same horse every day and building that level. They have to be a lot more adaptable. So that adaptability, it's crazy
And
how much
perceptive.
better. Perceptive, yeah. How much that group has already grown. They're going to be great. There's a lot of talent.
And get into this weekend, last one for you. It's obviously the number one team in the country. Can't ask for much more.
Yep.
But also another meet coming up the day before. What's it going to take to get 2 wins, including that upset over Auburn?
The upset over Auburn is going to be every single ride. Everybody's being super focused, really organized. Some of the cards go on our ways because we do ride a judged sport, so we can't control that piece. So controlling all the things that we can control, and then, hopefully that everything also comes, just the stars align in a little bit because we do have a judged sport. So we can do what we can do, be our best. No mistakes, no penalties, stay out of the penalty box, and ride with some, assertiveness. It'll be good.
I love your attitude.
Yes.
I love the focus on contribution.
The confidence.
Oh, absolutely. Amen.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Here
good
we
stuff.
go. Yeah, good stuff. Well, Coach, thanks so much for your
Yeah.
time. As always, good luck here in this weekend.
All right, thank you.
We'll go ahead and take a break. Keep it right here on Skyhawk Sports Talk.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
And that'll do it for yet another episode of Skyhawk Sports Talk. Davis Gregory and Chris Brinkley closing things out here in Zaxby's in Martin, Tennessee. And what a great episode it was. Coach Shulman, Coach Janes, Coach Farmer getting to talk to her as she's about to embark on her first full season as head coach. And then also talking with Coach McMillan as well. A great time. And just thank you all so much for tuning in. Chris, any final words?
Yeah, UTMsports.com for all the schedules, rosters, and information. You can also go to OBCSports.com. You can follow UTM on all the social media platforms.
And that's going to do it for Chris Brinkley, myself, Davis Gregory, for all our coaches that we've had on today and our great university. We say God bless here from Zaxby's in Martin, Tennessee.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.